Welcome to another episode of the Fanzone Podcast, your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the preview brought to you by us here at the Fanzone Podcast. Episode 21 ahead of a huge game against Bristol Rovers this weekend as Wanderers look to finally close the gap once again on Derby and put some pressure on as the business end of the season really spices up. In just a couple of minutes' time, we'll be joined by Charlie Hayne from the Talking Gas podcast. We're looking forward to bringing him on. But for now, you've just got myself and Chris. How are we this evening, Chris?
Yeah, splendid. Yeah. Looking forward to a trip down to Bristol on Saturday for hopefully 3 points.
Indeed. A very warm welcome to you all this evening. I can see a couple of you in the chat already. So Radix, Lexi, Leslie, Ian and Tim, a very warm welcome to you all on this Thursday evening. Thank you for choosing to spend it with us, your Bolton Wanderers podcast. For those of you who were around this time last year, probably around the back end of March, early April, you'll probably recollect numerous episodes where you will have heard me sniffing, coughing, wheezing, spluttering, all the rest of it. And I must apologise because it's that time of year again and it's come straight back. So if you do hear any unpleasant sounds, which may or may not include, but aren't limited to sneezing, coughing, spluttering, snorting, I'm going to try my best to mute my mic, but you know, these things happen. So I do apologise in advance because it's not pleasant. Pete, good evening to you. David, good evening to you. Hope you're all having a fantastic evening. As I said, we'll be joined by Charlie Hayne pretty soon. But Chris, just talk to us a little bit about Wanderers and what this game means for us. You know, where do we go from here? What a win is needed. I don't think there's any question about that. But what are you expecting from the game as a whole?
I expect to win, first and foremost. No disrespect to Bristol Rovers, but their recent form isn't exactly stellar, is it? So they've won 1 in the last 6, scored once, lost the last, not 1 in the last 5. Yeah, but by the same token, our away record isn't the best. But it's time to turn it around. You know, we're going to the last. Oh, wait up. I think Charlie has found his way in.
Have a guest that's landed?
Yeah, I think as somebody's just said in the chat, Radix Lexi just said, it's got to win by any means necessary. And it's as simple as that. Doesn't need to be pretty. Doesn't need to be by a raft of goals. Just a win.
Is
Charlie,
indeed. It's a very important game.
Evening. Yeah, all good, thanks. Yeah, all good.
Good.
It's a pleasure to have you with us, Charlie. If you want to find the Talking Gas podcast, then if you head over to the link in the description, you can find them over there. But it's a pleasure to have you with us, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I really do appreciate it.
Not a worry, you are very welcome. So, without further ado, we will get stuck into this evening's episode of The Preview. So, Wanderers, of course, face an away visit to Bristol Rovers in Sky Bet League One in what is an important fixture. Fair to say for both teams, obviously Wanderers looking to cement that promotion place, whether that be through the playoffs or through automatic promotion. I'm sure we're all keen to keep hot on Derby's tail, though. And of course, Bristol Rovers looking to turn form around a little bit. It's been a difficult patch of the season, I think it's fair to say. Charlie, what are you feeling heading into the match? What needs to happen for you from a Bristol Rovers point of view?
Yeah, well, hopefully score a goal because we've gone 5 games without scoring a goal, 5 games without a win. Yeah, just want to see. I mean, we played a little bit better against Shrewsbury, but Shrewsbury are probably one of the poorest teams I've seen this season. So yeah, hopefully we can go out in the right mindset. I think the problem is with Rovers is a lot of players are out of contract in the summer. A lot of players were obviously Barton players. Taylor obviously brought in a few players in January, most of them loan. So I think, yeah, with us Rovers fans, I think 99% of us just want the season to end and get going in the summer. But obviously we want to see a little bit more from, the players and obviously the play style, because it's been poor recently.
Yeah, and Chris, what about you? Obviously, Wanderers are going to be really, really keen on putting a stamp on the promotion race, and obviously with Derby picking up a good point, but in theory dropping 2 points against Portsmouth. What are you hoping to see from a Wanderers perspective?
It's a win, innit? It's got to be a win. It's as simple as that. There's no reliance upon other teams' results anymore. It's down to making it our responsibility to go out there and get the points and see if we can push Derby as hard as we can. But, ultimately they've got that cushion of a point should we win on Saturday. And obviously they've got a cushion of a few goals in the bank in terms of goal difference. So, there's, as somebody has just said, Radix again, no room for error now. It's all bust. I won't say the S word as we're before the watershed, but it is all bust. And we've got to go down there and play like we did on Monday, without any fear, and without playing to combat the strengths of the opposition and the conditions and the pitch and whatever, just go out there and do what we're capable of, and win. Simple.
Both teams looking to pick up points. For Bristol Rovers, it's a turnaround of form that they're chasing, and for Wanderers, it's to cement that promotion place, of course, as we mentioned so far. But let's take a look at how both teams have got to where we are, shall we? So, your seasons so far, Wanderers, not that I have to remind you, I'm sure you've got one keen eye on it. Third in the table, 78 points, 4 games behind promotion rivals Derby with 1 game in hand. Bristol Rovers a little bit further down, but not too far away. A sort of a steady 14th place. 51 points, 40 games played, similar to those around them, obviously. A couple of teams below you with a couple more games. So it doesn't look like you'll be in any danger of going down. I think it would take something pretty miraculous for that to become a problem. But again, on the opposite side of the coin, not really looking to make the step up this season. So do you think that's been a little bit of a... 2 questions. How have you got to where you are? How has the season turned out? How do you think, were you expecting that coming into the season? But also, do you think that, this business end of the season, perhaps having nothing to play for has given you that little bit of perhaps complacency, and that might be a case for poor performances?
Yeah, well, as a season so far, for me, and I think a lot of Rovers fans, it's underwhelming. If you just look at 14th place and you think, it's not too bad, sort of, middle of the road. But me personally, I was quite optimistic coming into the season. We've brought in a lot of players, a lot of, on paper, really good players. But for whatever reason, the whole season, even under Barton and when Mangan had the caretaker role, it's just been inconsistent. We can play really well one week, and then the next few games we'll lose and just look awful. It summed this up really over the Christmas period where we were in the honeymoon period under Taylor. I think it was when we played you, it was our third game. And I know you had a man sent off, but even before the send off, we looked really good. And then we played Pompey, beat them. And then you look at other games, we've just not been good enough. So as a season overall, it's just been disappointing. Especially, it's almost the same as last season, where this stage last season, well, even January onwards last season, we had nothing to play for, and it's just really annoying. I think for a lot of Rovers fans, especially. So, yeah, it's been okay, but nothing to really shout home about apart from the performances where we actually turn up, like we did against you, Pompey, Stevenage away, Oxford, etc.
Yeah, and I suppose heading into next season, it'll be looking to cement that consistency a little bit more, and perhaps even climb your way up that table a little bit. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, hopefully that's the aim. We've had new owners come in over the summer. They've said like championship in 5 years is all right talking like that, but you want to see it on the pitch, and I think we have got some good players. And overall a good squad on paper, but for whatever reason, under Taylor and under Barton, etc., it just hasn't worked out. And I think the main thing for me is I think we need to, like we've seen with you and other teams that are up there, clean sheets is the main thing, and we haven't kept nowhere near. And I think it starts off with a good defense, and we haven't had that. We've just conceded too many poor goals.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I think from a Wanderers point of view, a similar-ish story, but I think we've been able to grind out some results, whereas last season I don't think we would have stood a chance. I think there's been a common theme, would you say, Chris? If you look at our season this year, there's been, I probably couldn't even count on both my hands how many times I think I've come away from a game thinking last season that's a different story.
Yeah, it's been a strange one. Obviously, it's coincided with this injury crisis. There's a lot of clubs have faced, specifically, from January onwards. We'll touch on injuries in another segment, but obviously we've seen some positive news for a change today on that front. But yeah, there's been a lot of, especially away from home, there's been some really, really frustrating results. Thinking back to Northampton away, Exeter away, Wigan away, where, we're talking now about pulling 3 points back on Saturday to bring the deficit down to 1 and everybody on an even keel in terms of games played. But, it would have taken a couple of extra points from those games that I've mentioned. It would be a whole different story. But, yeah, if my nan had wheels, she would be a motorbike, as the saying goes. So, it balanced itself out over the course of a season without throwing too many cliches in. I noticed as well when I was looking back to December that the sending off that you mentioned, Charlie, was our captain, Rico Santos, and the player that he impeded was a certain Aaron Collins.
Yeah.
It's a funny old story, isn't it? It was actually my next talking point.
Oh, sorry. Still you thunder.
No, you've given me a perfect segue, Chris. In terms of not scoring goals being a problem from Bristol Rovers, obviously I don't want to upset you too much, and I don't want to, send you down memory lane. But Aaron Collins in his last game did score a hat trick. Certainly looking to seeming like he's finding his feet in a Wanderers shirt with what was some excellent, I think, goals. Really, really showing his value. But a lot of fans have sort of. Perhaps it's in the minority. I'm sure it's in the minority, but some fans have questioned his value and his price tag coming into the Wanderers camp. What? Obviously, I think he's seemingly a special player at Bristol Rovers. But what do you think Wanderers fans can expect from him in the long run? Obviously, short term, we've sort of seen what he's about and what he could do. What do you think is coming for the future, though?
Yeah, I think he's, like you said, he's starting to come up and obviously being the team more. Is obviously, I think he's got 5 goals since he joined you and a few assists. Yeah. Obviously, like you said, the hat trick. Yeah, some of the goals are crazy. Of course, he does that just before he comes back to the men. But yeah, I think goals, obviously, and creativity. He can sort of create something out of nothing. I think you'll see that with him. He likes to sort of drop back a little bit and sort of open up spaces and create holes in the pitch and space for other players to move into. So yeah, I think that's the thing is with Collins, especially for us, of course, he scored quite a few goals during his time, but a lot of the times he would score the more difficult chances and miss the one-on-ones. I'm not sure how he's been. Obviously, I know he scored the hat trick, which was crazy, but yeah, for us, he was of course a quality player. But to be honest, I think a lot of Rovers fans said it was just the right time for sort of us to move him on because he wasn't in the best of form in sort of like the past year in a Rovers shirt.
Was that due to sort of, talk of a bit, as it turned out, a relatively big money move out of Bristol Rovers? Was that what sort of caused that dip in form, do you think, Charlie? Has he had his head been turned? Let me get my words out.
Yeah, to be honest, I think so. I even said it early on. I think it was the first game of the season away at Pompey, and sort of going on late last season, because he obviously got League One Player of the Year last year. But I think from January onwards, he only got 3 goals, and I think his form sort of went down with the team's form at the end, in the second half of last season. And yeah, I think his head was turned. I think, with his agent and probably himself, he thought, he's got, over 15 goals the last 2 years he was with us. So yeah, I personally think his head was turned then. I'm just sort of glad in the end. I think it was around 750,000, wasn't it? I think in the end.
750. That's right.
750. So for a player that only got 6 goals in the last year of him being in Rovers, I think it's good in the end, because a lot of Rovers fans were sort of last season we were talking of like 2-3 million because of his goal contributions. I think he had 27 goal contributions last season for us. So we were talking of a lot, but like considering in the end that we got 750, I think it's a good return, and hopefully we can reinvest that in the summer.
Wasn't that the that 2-3 million? Wasn't that the valuation that your previous manager, Mr. Barton, put on his head? I seem to remember reading an interview with Joey Barton about that he put that price tag on him.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure he did say that, but I think a lot of fans thought that anyway because of you've seen other players, and he's still like fairly young. So I think he might have said that. I can't really remember. So much has gone on since obviously Barton said that. So yeah, I think Rovers fans agreed with it as well, though. I think around 2-3 mil, but I said, to get that in the end, I think was good considering his form with us.
His drop off, there was actually a question a little bit further back in the chat, Charlie. I'm not sure if you want to answer this, but we'll put it to you anyway. And it's from David, and he asks, would you have Joey Barton back now? I would probably excuse his social media presence and what have you. But what are your thoughts on that? Was it the right move for the Gas to get rid of Joey Barton?
I mean, for me personally, at the time, I didn't want him to get sacked.
Right.
But now, if you're asking me now, would I have him back? No, I wouldn't, because of all the madness that has happened since that. But at the time, I didn't want him sacked. But I think a lot of the fan base did. I think it's obviously off the pitch issues. So no, I wouldn't have him back now, but I didn't want to get rid of him when he did get sacked.
Right, sure.
That's absolutely fair enough. As you said, Chris, before, some positive news in terms of the Wanderers camp. So we will head over and touch on our injury update, which might finally be getting a little bit better. So the two standout names looking to make a return to the Wanderers starting 11 is, of course, goalkeeper Nathan Baxter, who's been out for quite a while with a wrist injury, and Baxter Charles, who has sort of been on his way back and then not back and then aggravated his injury and then coming back and then not coming back, and now he's coming back, we think, but we don't know. He might not be coming back. I think that just about sums it up pretty accurately. Chris, anyone that I've missed from that list?
No. Well, yeah, there is actually. Yeah,
Caleb Taylor
quite a few.
is rumoured on his back. Well, the two big ones that I think we've all been waiting for the last, what feels like forever.
Those are the two names that have obviously caused the most ruckus amongst the fan base in terms of where are they and why is the manager not answering questions about them. But yeah, as you quite rightly say, Nathan Baxter is now back in training and looking good. We need to see obviously how the injury responds now he is in training. I think the best you can say about Dion is that he is close, quote unquote. Caleb Taylor, Randall Williams, both raring to go, ready to play, which is good. Not necessarily players who would feature, but certainly, more than capable backup players, which we have been missing. Geth, Dan Lunderloo, and Jono also not a million miles away. I'd be surprised if we see George Johnston before the end of the season, but certainly Gethin Jones and Dan Lunderloo should feature in the next couple of games. So, yeah, finally, some positive news, which we've been missing for quite a while, really, on the personnel front. It's been doom and gloom, and yeah, water pistols in armadas, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly been ropey, I think is the right word for Wanderers in terms of personnel front. What about over in the Bristol Rovers camp then, Charlie? How's your squad looking? Any key players out missing? Any, full team sheets that won't be able to make the quota?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure. We had Baggett, who we signed on loan. He's been out the last few weeks. Aguilera is now back after, he played over international break against Argentina. He's back. Jack Hunt, who has been a frustrating. He's obviously a quality player. Been Wednesday and had promotions on his TV. I don't think he's ever finished outside. This would be his first season in League One, and of course, trust it to be at Rovers, where he's not going to finish in the top 7. He's never finished outside the top 7, and he joins Rovers in the summer. And he's been quality when he's played, but unfortunately, he's missed probably 20 games this season through injury. But apart from that, I'm not sure who else. I don't think they've uploaded sort of Taylor's pre-match thoughts yet. So at the moment, that's all I know.
Yeah, I mean, for Wanderers, it's been a long, rocky road, but it's good to feel like we're getting back somewhere. Chris, in terms of personnel, are you expecting any major changes, obviously, apart from the possible inclusion of Baxter and Charles?
I think given the games that follow Saturday's game, I would be surprised if Nathan Baxter is risked. I'd imagine at best Dion would be on the bench. Good question from Cole about Will Forrester. I think Jack Iredale, it was just a cramp, but there'll be a rotation between those two again, I suspect. But I'd imagine it would be a very, very similar lineup to what we saw against Reading on Monday. I know she mentioned Aguilera, Charlie. Isn't he dirty? Sorry, that's a really poor joke. Christina Aguilera. Sorry. I'm sure you've heard it before.
Yeah.
But no, I imagine we'd probably see a very, very similar lineup to Monday. Sorry. With a bit more in terms of options coming off the bench. To drop Aaron Collins, and I'm not sorry, I'm not giving him, but to drop Aaron Collins after what he did on Monday, and to drop Bod Varson, who obviously, bagged a brace himself, would be madness. However, you never know with Mr. Evatt and his tinkering what he might do. But no, similar lineup to Monday.
Yeah, I'm under the same boat. I think don't fix what isn't broken, and after such an impressive home win, although our away form leaves little to be desired. Yeah, I'd be surprised if there are any major changes made apart from, as you mentioned, some rotations. Charlie, mindful of the time for you, so we will close off this evening's episode with, of course, our What's the Score? So, as we go through our predictions, we of course want yours in the chat as well. So, get your score predictions in, and we'll get some read out as we go. But Chris, we'll go to you first. What's your score prediction, mate?
I think this will be the third time in 3 games I've predicted exactly the same scoreline. And just for context, Charlie, I am not the most optimistic of Bolton fans. But I am going for, positively, Charlie, I think Bristol Rovers will score. However, I also think that we will. I think it will be Bristol Rovers 1, Bolton Wanderers 3.
Well, with any luck, third time is the charm, and you'll get that one right, Cole. Chris. I was going to say, Cole's gone for 5-0, but I think we're going to ban him from making score predictions because every time he predicts a win like that, we always get absolutely slapped about the place. So, Charlie, we'll go over to you. What's your score prediction?
Yeah, it's tough. I'm hoping for sort of, because I remember when we played you in the previous game, you was on ridiculous form, scoring goals for fun. We were on poor form, and I remember on our podcast we had a Bolton fan on from the Trotter Chatter podcast, and even in the comments, a lot of the Bolton fans were like 4-0, 5-0, and obviously we ended up beating you. So I'm hoping the same happens this time. But yeah, I'm not optimistic at all. I do agree, though. I do think we will score, but I'm going to go for the exact same prediction as what you said. I'm gonna go 3-1 Bolton.
Interesting. I'm going to round it off, and my prediction was actually the same, 3-1 Wanderers. So we've got a full house. So maybe it's destined and it's written in the stars to excuse the cliche.
Can we just ask that final question of Charlie, please, which is from David, which is what kind of reception do you think Aaron Collins will get on Saturday?
Yeah, to be fair, he should get a good. He should get a good
right,
one.
Okay. Right.
There might be, there might be, some, fans that will boo just because it's, people look at, he went to Bolton, for the money, blah blah blah. But he sort of deserved the move anyway, so he should get a good one. But there might be a few boos in there just because why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
You're wrong. Yeah, I won't blame you. Wouldn't blame you. It's all part of the pantomime, isn't it? Really, I suppose with a former player that's inevitably going to be some heckling. Got to be done.
There's always some out there. I think Will Forrester had it at Port Vale when he made the trip down there.
Sorry, Ben, I do apologise. Can I just say, I think there was a mention from David further up in the chat. There we go. From David Jones, he's got to say that the latest videos on the Bolton app, which is Wanderers TV, are class. The Gaffer's interview and special mention to somebody who we spent some time with during the tough sleep, which was the club chef, James Berry. What a lovely fella. Top bloke. He has a feature currently on the Wanderers TV site, which is a day in the life of the club chef. And if you've not watched it, give it a watch. If you pay that little bit extra a month for Wanderers TV, give it a watch. It's brilliant. It's really good. And it's a fascinating insight into the players getting fed, basically, the nutrition around the team and whatnot. So give it a watch. It's really good. James Berry, performance chef, Bolton Wanderers. There you go.
Indeed. Charlie, we'll let you go. Thank you very much for joining us. We massively appreciate it. And best of luck after Saturday.
Yeah, cheers for having me on, lads. Appreciate it.
Good luck, mate.
No worries. Cheers.
Cheers.
So, Wanderers preview ticked off. Another one off the list. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did enjoy the, as David mentioned there, the interview with head chef James Berry, and you enjoyed his content, you enjoyed finding out a little bit more about him, then if you keep your eyes peeled on the Fanzone podcast socials, you might get the chance to find out a little bit more about him. But we couldn't possibly say any more. Keep your eyes peeled. Things are moving. Things are happening. Coming soon, I think is the apt way to put it. So, but before that, before everything else, it's been a pleasure to have you all on board with us. We'll go through your score predictions. Leslie said Chris loves his 3-1. He does indeed, doesn't he? Ed 2-1, Ian 2-1, Neil 4-1 to the Bolton Wanderers, David Bristol Rovers 1, Collins 2. What else have we got? Cole with his 5-0. Lindsay 3-0. Radix Lectai 2-0. David Jones, Bristol Rovers 0, Bolton Wanderers 2. And that's all we've got in the chat. But thank you all very much for joining us. We'll catch you in the next episode. And until then, hopefully bring you a 3-point podcast on Sunday. Take care, and we'll catch you in the next one. See you later.
Bye-bye.